As an elected official, it's unlikely but possible that you may have to work on legislation that would modify the Constitution. And to have a two-part question. How do you feel regarding the modification of the Constitution? And there is a threat to American parents right now. It's called the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child. And there's a push to get the Parental Rights Amendment added to the Constitution, which would give parents the ability to raise their children as they see fit without the UN dictating that. Would you be willing to add that to the Constitution? And so that's the second part. The first part is, how willing are you to amend the Constitution? What are your qualifications for that? And second, would you be willing to add the parental rights to the Constitution?
When you become a member of the Congress, you put your hand on the Bible and you do swear to defend and support the Constitution. I believe that when you amend the Constitution, it should be done very, very carefully. Ken and I have talked about a balanced budget amendment without raising taxes. I do believe we're at a time in our nation's history where that would be very, very important for us to do. Government is not able to restrict itself, and so I do believe a balanced budget amendment would be appropriate, again, without raising taxes. I would fight against the UN proposal. I think it would be very damaging to our families and to our way of life. But I have had the actual experiencing in upholding the Constitution. When I was head of the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment, I was sworn in to serve, and I did put my hand on the Bible, and I did swear that I would defend the state constitution. And in 1984, the people of this state said they did not want their tax dollars going to fund abortion. And 2 years later, in 1986, the people again were posed the constitutional question, do you want your tax dollars going to fund an abortion? And they said, at even a higher margin, we do not want our tax dollars going. Previous administrations had ignored the Constitution. We enforce the Constitution.
It sounds weird, but the first thing we would need to do is to amend the Constitution to make it easier to amend the Constitution. And that's a tough one to sell to the American people. I think that the American Constitution is difficult to amend for a reason, and it is because it was such a fine document when it was produced the first time that we should not tinker with it at every time. I'm in favor of two amendments to the Constitution. One is a balanced budget amendment that Jane and I agree on, and the second is a term limit to the Constitution, and perhaps for the Supreme Court, but definitely for senators and members of the House of Representatives. I think that I am absolutely in favor of the Parental Rights Amendment. I think that it needs to come after those two. But more importantly, I think that any treaty that is created in the United Nations that America would have to be a party to would come to the Senate for ratification. And I would absolutely vote against the treaty that is being discussed in the United Nations, and would stand firm against needing to ratify the Constitution.
I guess we'll move on to the next question. Don Rogers asks a question to Ken Buck.
Sir, as a new senator, what would be your absolutely top priority, and who in the Senate will you seek out and align yourself with to achieve the best results, and why?
My top priority would be to balance the budget, and I would immediately seek the advice of my friend and the senator who has endorsed me, Jim DeMint. I think Jim, who by the way will be here on July 8th if anybody would like to meet him. Just a quick one. I think Jim has stood firm. In fact, Jane and I have both signed the No Earmarks Pledge. I think Jim has a lot of innovative ideas on how to balance the budget. I think ultimately we need to move towards a constitutional balanced budget amendment, but that is going to take years, and we can't afford to wait years to balance the budget. We are going to have to make tough decisions quickly, and I think Jim DeMint is one of those leaders in the United States Senate that will help us make those decisions.
Repeal Obamacare would be the #1 priority that I would have. My background is healthcare reform. I served in the administration of Ronald Reagan at the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services in Denver. I had a 6-state region, got to watch the healthcare reform proposals going on in each of those 6 states. Went back into the private sector. Bill Owens asked me to be his secretary of the Department of Public Health and Environment and got to work on healthcare reform. In his second term, he asked me to be his lieutenant governor. We were the first ticket to run as a ticket, and he asked me to work with small businesses and chambers of commerce across the state to bring the cost of healthcare down. And we worked in some very innovative ways. We put caps on non-economic damages that had been blown off over the years. Colorado's had been blessed with good tort reform, but over the years, those caps had crept up. We put the caps back on non-economic damages. If you want to truly bring the cost of healthcare down, you have to look at the drivers of healthcare. And tort reform, defensive medicine, is one of those drivers. The second thing that we did is a mandate-like provision. As you know, if you want to purchase a plan in Colorado, right now there are 52 mandates required. Things like shoe fetishes, caffeine addictions, and those kinds of things. We stripped those out, made a scaled-down version of a health plan, and allowed small businesses to couple that with a health savings account, and it brought the cost of health care down. We know we can do it. We can do tort reform. We can do tax equity. We can do portability. We can do purchasing across state lines. Repealing Obamacare is my #1 priority if I have the privilege of serving as your U.S. Senator.
Repealing Obamacare is certainly an important measure, and it needs to be undertaken. The problem is that President Obama is going to be in office 2 years after I take office in January of 2011. Repealing Obamacare is not realistic. What we can do is we can make sure we balance the budget and we don't fund the 16,500 growth in health and human services that it's going to take to implement Obamacare. And if we do those things and we pray a lot and we work real hard, folks, just like you're going to work this fall, if we work real hard, we will get a conservative, and I didn't say Republican, I said conservative president in office in 2012, a majority in the Senate, a